Hello, and welcome to the Curmudgeon in the Cellar, number 73 on YouTube. About 80 altogether, I guess. Maybe. I don't know. Quite a few. You may have noticed lately I've been a little lax about my sponsors. And that's because we're still working on the end of this. But I gotta give them props where props are due. Bards of Greyhawk, Biggest Fan Video Productions, and of course Dice Fanatics, and World of Game Design, and Old Guard Games, who all in their various ways contribute to this broadcast. And the Bards of Greyhawk are even working on a theme song. I can hardly wait for that. All right, let's go into some of the stuff from the last issue. Okay, this is a follow-up on when we were talking about Rangers. By second edition, Rangers were limited to priest spells and only those from the animal and plant domain, which is pretty close to that vision. The big things added in third edition were feats and mix and match class levels, which I think was an attempt to break up the strict level progressions. Still too strict for my liking. Well, you got to remember, well, no, you don't. I'll tell you. It's not fair to say you got to remember if you weren't there. A lot of the classes, subclasses that we were developing back then, such as the Ranger or the Thief, were patterned after an archetype. The Thief was, of course, Fafford the Mauser, and the Dying Earth with Jack Vance, and the Ranger's archetype, of course, was Strider, because everybody was, going crazy for Tolkien at the time. I guess I should move up. Sorry, take your Dramamine. I should warn you beforehand. Because everybody was into Tolkien at the time, so the Ranger became Strider. Well, I can see a Ranger, not Strider, but I can see a Ranger type as being, especially if you play a lot of outdoors, which I think is neglected nowadays. Nobody plays enough outdoor stuff. But if you do play outdoors, a Ranger's he's in his element, and that's what he does. And Rangers in the beginning were really good. They were like Mark Trail. Look him up on Wiki. Mark Trail. He was a really great outdoors guy, and he could track bears and find lost babies in the wilderness, all sorts of crap. And that's kind of what the Ranger was. The Ranger was like this uber Boy Scout, man scout, who patrolled the edges of civilization, et cetera, and was at one with nature and commune with nature. And not like he could talk to animals or anything like that, but he had extra sensory type advantages in the wilderness. And that's why that was part of why we allowed it, because we were trying to do more outdoor adventuring, because I think outdoor adventuring is grossly overlooked, which is why there's so much of an outdoor element in everything I write, and some of it has no underground whatsoever. That's the Ranger turned to crap later, quite frankly. I don't know why they were doing what they were doing, but they kind of emasculated the Ranger and made him anyway. I didn't care for what got done to him later on. HEMA, H-E-M-A, is a sword fighting club in England. Okay, now this was referred to the guy that couldn't stand to see a guy being acting like a dog walking down Hollywood Boulevard. And he's a member of this, and that's the historical European martial arts. I guess these guys bash each other with swords and maces and crap. Now, I've seen this night fight on TV, where these guys are part of a league, and they do go out and wear real armor and bash the hell out of each other with real blunted weapons. But I think what my HEMA guy missed was, he was all offended, but I tried to make the point that the guy, you know, doing the dog act was doing it voluntarily. Like I said, you know, he was much larger than the woman who had him on a leash, and he certainly looked capable of standing up and saying, "The hell with this shit," and unclipping it and walking away if he chose to. So, you know, that's this guy's bag. Okay, this is his fantasy. So, yeah, let him do it. It doesn't hurt anybody. Oh, by the way, these are just because my hands are cold all the time from the peripheral nerve damage from the chemotherapy. So I'm trying these for a while to see if it helps anything. The compression does help a lot. Anyway, so, you know, I'll stop all the questions now about the gloves. Nobody needs to go about the gloves. Okay. All right. This is a guy that I don't normally do this, but this guy wrote this, and I could have written it. So I'm going to read it in its entirety. He 100% agrees on the lazy gamers in Facebook. I'm in a 5th edition forum with thousands of people in it, and the Hey Hive Mind post is at least 50% of the posts in there. To go with what you said, if you know enough to even ask the question, it's a fantasy game, just pick an answer. Yeah, it's fantasy, man. Pick an answer. It is the city's name who you said it is. The sword's name is Bob because you said it is. You can spell it B-A-H-H-B or something, you know, but B-H-A-B-B, Bob. All right, get back to the response. Nobody will go to jail or die because you named it. Okay, you named your intelligent sword Leroy, no glasses. Got a design question for you. All right. So anyway, that half of the question, that's cool. I agree. All right. Now, got a design question for you. For early edition elves who were fighters and magic users, was there an intent behind that combination that defined why they could be both, or why they could do both? As in, did all elves receive wizard spell training using books like human wizards did, or were elves intrinsically magical and gained greater understanding with time, not spellbook study? Well, yeah, it's kind of the latter. Again, we were using we were patterning these classes and these races after archetypes because we were trying to make them understandable. It didn't do any good to tell them you were one of Nebuchadnezzar's elite guards, but if you told them you were a badass El Cid, okay, you see where I'm coming here. We were using examples that made sense, that people could relate to. Yeah, it seems like all those Tolkien elves, you know, certainly the higher level elves, all had magical abilities, and you know, that elf that rode the stag, he obviously, you know, had some skills and levels and abilities, and there's another question coming up later here that goes to the same vein or the train of thought. We were following archetypes, and because we were presenting something so new and so different from anything that had been done before, and even though we originally were presenting it to miniatures players, thinking they would be the ones who would grasp it first, we were still doing it clumsily, certainly, but that's how we sold it. You know, hey, a ranger, oh, that's Strider. Oh, an elven magic user, wicked fighter, Elrond. You know, okay, we were giving people's examples. Not that we really liked doing that, and Gary especially didn't like using Tolkien references because he thought there were too many of them already. But that's where it was at the time, and that's why we did it, because it seemed as though they could. Again, we took elves, we took Tolkien's elves. Now you look into other mythologies, and what correlates to elves or are called elves are a lot different than Tolkien's elves. Mischievous, wicked, changelings. You know, weren't just fairies. In some mythologies, those are elves, you know, and stealing babies and things. So we took the more benign noble elf of Tolkien's breed. Okay, next response. One of the aspects of newer editions I dislike the most is the proliferation of special abilities and spell that allow players to take shortcuts around challenges. Natural hazards like cold, heat, difficult terrain, and even provisions seem to be an afterthought for new editions when, in my opinion, they should be part of the challenge. I agree to a point. I definitely agree to a point. I have written adventures that take place on and in glaciers. And when I say in, there's tunnels that are winding through the glacier that you have to traverse. And so I have used the cold, I've used the melty part, the fact that the tunnels are all round, roughly round and slippery and whatever. I don't recall having gotten into using mud, but I've used sand. And I guess I have used, mud. I've written stuff with swamps in them. If you had some, like magic elven shoes that allowed you to run over the bogs, I'm okay with that. But some sort of magic or some sort of innate skill wired into you, born into you, I see where you're going. I see where this person is going with this. There shouldn't be shortcuts. Now, the only thing I don't really of all these things listed, difficult terrain certainly. I wrote one where I had to pull up a river and full of caimans, giant, big ass caimans, and I have done some in my campaign. If I were running a campaign, certainly, if the situation warranted it, provisions might become an issue. However, if there's spells to create food and create water and these kinds of things, they may be worked around, I guess is the word I'm looking for. You can work around them. That, I think, is a legitimate workaround. Some of the other stuff I think this individual is referring to, being impervious to cold, okay, find a magic item that gives you that. Impervious to heat, okay, find a magic item that gives you that. A ring, a helm, a girdle, gauntlets, whatever, a wand, I don't care. A sprig of magic holly that you wear in your hair. Doesn't matter to me what it is, but you can justify it by being magic. Because after all this crap is magic. And, all magic is whatever you want it to be. I agree with the writer here, though. I think you're cheating yourself. I think DMs are losing out on some really, really fun adventure planning and writing when you go outdoors and deal with the elements. And, of course, you're going to allow if you tell your party they're going up to a glacier to do something, of course they're going to have, warm weather gear or cold weather gear. Yeah, they're going in shorts and sandals. No, they're going to have cold weather gear and those kinds of things. And in a campaign, and you'll make allowances for it. You'll figure out a way to get it for them to get it. And of course, it's going to cost them dearly. Everything should. So you're missing out if you ignore all that stuff. And I think the newer systems he refers to here I think they're kind of shortchanging the players if they don't get into that. I mean, it's really interesting watching a bunch of players try to go through these basically 7-foot round, slippery. It's like an enclosed bowling alley gutter that they're traversing their way through, and of course they try to mark things on the wall, and the marks don't always stay because there's always a little seepage, and That's a fun way you can fool with them, is trying to find their way through a maze in ice. Yeah, the ones that have tried to do it have had a lot of fun. They've found it interesting. I guess to say it fun, I had a lot of fun. As you are the namesake for the Sword of Law and the vampire who slew Vecna with it, have you ever incorporated either in your campaign? Yeah. Yeah, I'm the namesake, because at the time we were looking at, my world was a different world, a different layer in the onion than Gary's, than Dave's, than Rob's. Okay. And so by naming that sword, again, this was probably a day when we were just dying for stuff to name things. And I know the Sword of Cass got snuck in on me. And I couldn't do anything about it. I wouldn't have done it. I was fine with Qualish's marvelous apparatus, or the apparatus of Qualish, or whatever the hell we called the big mechanical crawdad submarine thing. There again, magic applied to mechanics, and you can have some real good times with magic and mechanics. But no, I never did it. I wasn't involved in that. That was something Gary wrote, and he needed names for, just like I've done the same thing. I pull names out of the air. I use friends' names. I use friends' middle names. Names are, when you're really creating a lot of stuff, names are a bitch. City names, character names, monster names, I don't care. You start running out of names, and that's about I can't even justify going to the hive mind for that. So no, the answer to the question is short and sweet is no, I've never used either one. That would be kind of presumptuous on my part anyway. Now here's a really, really good question. And maybe not for the reason that the writer, the asker, thought. If there was no Dragon magazine, how different would AD&D be? Was AD&D dependent upon the dragon? Okay. Now, I find it curious that this individual used Dragon with a capital D magazine, and then later the Dragon, capital T and capital D, which is what I named it. Well, when I named it, it was not what it became. It was not a role-playing RPG magazine. It was not supplement of the month. Far from it. We put new stuff in because, hey, think about this. Hey, think about that. Have you thought about this when you're building your campaign, or you're constructing your castle, or whatever? It wasn't dogma. When I published something in the magazine, that did not make it official. I did stuff in the magazine that never made it into the books. I wasn't there to buff the game. I was there to promote gaming. And we were just one company of many. And TSR's products were, in some people would think, disproportionately represented because there were so few compared to everything else. If I did one article on a TSR game, there were 6 other articles in there on other games, at least. See what I'm saying, though, here? When I started the magazine, it was not the intent to be a house organ. That was the antithesis. That was anathema to Gary and I when we started the magazine. We were not going to be a house organ. Now, stuff changed. along with leadership in and out and people getting shoved out the doors and, whatever. Quite frankly, I would have despised my magazine by the end of its run if I was a DM, because, again, I'll make a Knights at the Dinner Table reference here. So those of you that read will know what I'm talking about. Every group that had a Brian Van Hoos would be driving me crazy with this new thing that just came out, and I hadn't had time to read it yet, and they figured out all the loopholes and all the bad things about it and everything already. That would drive me crazy as a DM. And I would have just put my foot down and said, absolutely not. I don't give a damn what the magazine had this month. I'll read it. I'll decide if it's something I want to add in. In that regard, D&D, when I ran it, the magazine was not there to promote TSR's products. I didn't promote TSR's products any more than a whole lot of other people. When I say promote, I'm not talking ads. I'm talking about what I chose to publish, what I chose to see written and done. Did several articles on cosmic encounters and other stuff that was not ours. Board games that were not ours. Did the magazine help Dragon? Yes. Or I'm sorry, did Dragon, the magazine, help the game? Yes. It advertised it. It was the only magazine on the shelves for a while, on the racks in the game stores. The only game magazine that, that wasn't Avalon Hills General or S&T's Moves, SPI's Moves, which weren't in general sales anyway. There were a few stores that carried them, but most people got them by subscription at that point in time. So I think that Dragon and I think that D&D were certainly, see what arthritis does, you can't even fold them all the way anymore. They were certainly, there was certainly a synergy between the two, absolutely. I can't speak to the magazine after I left. I don't like some of what got done. It started, I guess. See, I left after 33 and 36 and 39. I had varying responsibilities for the next, 5 or 6 issues because we always had stuff laid out in advance. And anyway, when Jake ran it, he ran it pretty much the way I did. When Kim started, when Jake left, he ran it again pretty much the way Gary wanted it run as the publisher, and that was the rising tide lifts all boats. The magazine talked about everybody's games, all good games, and how to behave at cons, and taking showers once in a while, and creating a good image, and don't be playing assassin with dark guns out in traffic, things like this. What happened after Gary was no longer the publisher was no longer my magazine because it became just a house organ. They gave lip service to it for a while to looking at other stuff, but pretty soon it was just more D&D crap every month. And that was never my intent. Did we help it grow? Yeah, we helped it get it off the ground. Because everybody that played D&D, well, not everybody, but lots of them read the magazine, and we showed them all the other good games and stuff they could be playing, and so they went out and got some of them. There was a real synergy there. The magazine helped the game helped the magazine, because the magazine, the game articles in the magazine were what a lot of the people wanted. When I first was running fiction, they hated it. And after a while, they got to realize, well, of course, There was one series I ran. It was pretty awful. But then when I started bringing in, name writers, that changed rather quickly. But yeah, I guess you could say that during the periods of time between 2 and 3 and 3.5 and 4, the magazine's subscribers kept the game alive, and changing from edition to edition to edition. So there was a certain reliance and dependency later on, certainly. Somebody wanted me to post videos of myself running adventures at cons. You're a legend of gaming, and I never get to cons. Well, I don't know about the legend part. And if anybody out there has got any videos, Doug Ray at the Texas Con might, because there was a couple of years when he was videotaping every damn thing going on down there. So he might. If anybody else has got any videotapes of me running a game, let me know. It'd be funny. But I've never arranged to have any set up or run. I may end up, before all said and done, at the end of this year, running. I may start doing games online. I don't know yet. Just for people to drop in and watch. Okay, I got 2 more things to talk about. The one is game related. The last one's hobby related. What's the origin of material components and spells? What inspired their inclusion in D&D? See, it's Hamlet's got the witches, right? I have Newt, Tongue of Toad, all that kind of stuff. That's where it came from. All the incantations and the good mythologies and the good fairy tales and stuff, there was always material components. It was sympathetic magic. So, if you were trying to do something with, if you're trying to make somebody feel good, like a cure spell, you would need some gentian or some lavender, or these types of things that are associated with feeling better. Smelling salts, except nobody's got those. But that's where material components came from. Lots of the old books talked about that. You can get a whole quest up. Wizard, and get 4 or 5 of his non-wizard buddies to go with him. A whole quest just so he could find a couple of feathers from a griffin, because you're not even going to try to kill the griffin. Just find some feathers, maybe hanging around where it hangs around, whatever. But you would do that just to get the griffin feather, because he needed it to do this really amazing spell or incantation or enchantment that his DM said, okay, you got to have this, this, and this. That's another reason. It allows the DM to set limits and boundaries and requirements. But there's a great deal of historical, mythological, literature type stuff that go to a list of ingredients. I mean, goodness, you go back to Disney's Fantasia and the Sorcerer's Apprentice. She's putting in different stuff. He's putting in different stuff. The Witch and Snow White, okay? And I'm not, they were stories before Disney got them. And she put stuff in to the potion that made the apple make her fall asleep. So it was a combination of cultural references, historical, mythological, written references, and a way for the DM to have fun. You want to invent a new spell that does, this, that, and the whatever, which we used to do a lot. A lot of the spells that came out later were stuff we thought up afterwards, and other people thought up. Well, then, okay, you got to have these 4 ingredients. And so you could spend a couple of campaign months getting the ingredients you need, having fun along the way, finding stuff, little minor quests to get all the stuff to fulfill the major goal. It's a good reason. Even if it wasn't, even if it didn't have the references. Excuse me. Got to keep the throat wet. All right. Last thing. And I'm puzzled at this. I'm a grog. Proud of it. I'm a senior member of the TSR Old Guard. Senior Color Sergeant. Proud of it. I was delighted to see the 10 years ago, what became known as OSR. Old School Renaissance, Old School Revival. What I saw at the time as a turn back to a simpler way to play, which Wizards saw going on after a while, being beat over the head, and came back with 5th, which is more like the way we used to play. I have been an old school revivalist, resurrectionist. I don't care. Not a revisionist, really. Because I want everybody to see how we used to play and see the fun that I found in it. I want them to find it too. And now I'm hearing that OSR is a dirty word, and grogs, us old grogs, from the French word grouillon, or however you say it in French, which was applied to Napoleon's old guard, literally his old sweats is what it means in literal translation, his most senior soldiers and most savvy soldiers. And now I'm being told that we're being derided and resented as gatekeepers. Well, I don't know what exactly they mean by a gatekeeper, if I'm guilty of it, because I've actually opened a lot of doors and knocked a few fences over. But now people are changing, website names, taking off OSR out of it. They're changing Facebook page names, taking it out of there, because all of a sudden it became a dirty word. And I'm not sure how that happened, because I take a gatekeeper to mean you can come in and you can't. You can come in and you can't. But I was under the impression that when all this OSR stuff kind of sprang up, that we were doing the opposite. We were throwing open a gate. We were pulling down a curtain and saying, hey, check this out. This is how we used to do it. We still think it's fun. Let's see what you think. But now there's a negative connotation involved. And I don't know exactly where it came from. I'm not ashamed at all to be a grog. I'm the groggiest grog in the bunch right now, with a possible exception of Lenny Lakofka. All right. There's hardly a groggier grog than me. But I'm not going to be ashamed of it. And I'm certainly, going to be proud of the fact that the way we used to play has come back again, and people are enjoying it and finding out that, yeah, this is a cool thing. And I always thought that's kind of what a Renaissance was a relearning of something, or a being exposed to something that you being a people or a culture knew a long time ago, and it's being reborn. Anyway, that's that. That's about all I got to say. Keep in mind that we are still working on doing a better end wrap up. We're going to do I keep saying this. Yes, we are. We are going to be doing that and making a nicer closing on the end. And with those sponsors that I mentioned earlier, all and a music playing and a beautiful Alyssa Fadden map behind it all. And it's going to be spiffy, but we're, one thing at a time, and all the pieces are yet to come. So until that time, until next time, I'll say ciao.